Focus St. Louis is a leadership organization that strives to connect leaders and to facilitate important conversations. They have an upcoming event, Being a Change Agent in a Divided Nation Symposium, that encapsulates all points. Here today from Focus St. Louis is Wally Siewert. Welcome, Wally.
Good to be here.
So you are a part of the organization Focus St. Louis, and you've been with them a couple of years, so you have a lot of knowledge to share with us about the organization. Let's start by talking about who Focus St. Louis is.
Yeah, Focus St. Louis is a leadership development organization primarily. The goal is to build a functional leadership ecosystem here for a thriving region. That includes programs from Youth Leadership St. Louis, which brings in high schoolers, all the way through emerging leaders, Choral Women in Leadership, Leadership St. Louis, which has been our flagship program, been around for 20 plus years, and also the Impact Fellows program, which we'll get a chance to talk about a little later.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in our next segment. So right now, lots of opportunities to engage in the community through all the things that Focus St. Louis is doing. Would you say, do you feel within the organization that the things that you do and the conversations that you start truly impact the work that's being done here in St. Louis?
I like to think so, absolutely. Just as a for instance, we recently had a forum on the future of public safety in St. Louis, which included all three of the prosecutors from the region and the U.S. Attorney for Eastern Missouri. Really powerful conversation about how we can all work together moving public safety forward. The Impact Fellows are looking at the healthcare safety net. We're going to be talking about systems and policy change at a conference on March 29th. All of those are things that we hope can kind of move St. Louis forward as a region. Yeah,
so lots of conversation that takes place at these meetings and in these groups that Focus St. Louis is about and sponsoring. Are there action-oriented steps that come from these conversations?
Absolutely. For instance, with the Impact Fellows program, the fellows actually end up doing a project to move a needle in that area when they're looking at healthcare. Next year we'll be looking at workforce. We've also had a variety of different outcomes in terms of connecting people. We just were part of a coalition that did a forum for the President of Board of Aldermen race. Really work to surface good, productive conversations that cross silo lines from public service folks to corporate folks to nonprofit folks, all the leadership in the region kind of thinking together about how we solve our regional problems. Yeah,
so our community members who want to be a part of the conversation or to make a difference in our community, and everyone has an opinion on something going on, it sounds like Focus St. Louis might be the place to start.
It's definitely a good place to start. There's a couple of different ways to plug in. Number one, you can come to a lot of the community conversations that we have, like the conference on March 29th we'll be talking about a little bit more. And we work really hard to kind of get the audience engaged there and make sure that we're having a good conversation with the entire community. Other ways to take part are to apply to be a part of a leadership program of Focus St. Louis at whatever level is kind of relevant to you. And we have lots and lots of feedback from our alums who now exist all over the region in terms of the connection that they get to the St. Louis region, to people in the region, to what they're doing, understanding our problems and the solutions that might be on the horizon.
Very good. So March 29th, we've talked about, you've alluded to that, this event that's coming up that's open to the public. Tell us a little bit about that.
The idea is to think about, we need some fundamental change in this country. Now, we can disagree about what kind of changes are needed, but I think everybody agrees that there's definitely some changes needed. And the question is, how do we work for systems change? How do we work for policy change when we're living in a state and a nation that seem kind of gridlocked by partisan divide?
Yeah, so you've got two people coming in to lead this conversation. Tell us about them.
So William Crystal is a longtime conservative political journalist. He was the founder of the Weekly Standard and the editor of the Weekly Standard. He's going to be talking about what it means to be a change agent in media, political media spaces. And the kind of counterpoint keynote is someone from the opposite end of the political scale, who's actually a St. Louis native, Sarah Kendzior, who's a journalist and also an author of the book, The View from Flyover Country. They're going to be kind of giving a keynote and a keynote response and doing a joint Q&A just to show that really change can happen when we bring people together that we might not necessarily otherwise see talking to each other.
And very interesting that they are on opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yes.
So to hear them talk will be really interesting.
Yeah.
So that's coming up March 29th. We're going to take a quick break, but before we go to break, it's at UMSL, and you can sign up for that at the Focus St. Louis website. Is that right?
Focus-stl.org. Come check it out. Look forward to having you there.
Good, and it's open to the public. So stay with us at STL Live. We'll have more with Focus St. Louis after this break.